All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we're going to talk about Cody Garbrandt, and I want to talk about a bunch of things because I actually already filmed an entire video before I found out this thing about the suicide attempt, and we're going to get straight into that. I'm not going to put that at the back of the video. So I did a video about Cody Garbrandt calling out Sean Omalley, why I believe he's doing it, why I know he's doing it. Okay, like I understand Cody Garbrandt. I absolutely understand him. I see exactly who he is. And so I was talking about why he's doing this and exactly the same thing as it relates to his fights and what the outcomes have been. I understand him. And as I was putting together footage that I was going to use for the video, I stumbled on this video of him talking about a suicide attempt that he had in high school. And his brother saved his life. He was going to hang himself. And we'll watch it in a second. But when I read why he was thinking, or he almost hung himself, I was like, I knew it. Like that validates everything about what I say in this next video. Like, so I want you to keep in mind, I filmed that first, then I found out about this. So if anything seems a little bit off, given the beginning of this, that was filmed before I saw this. But the thing is like, the reason that actually, you know what? Let's watch the video really quick. Let's watch him talk about it. Ready? Boom.
For a while, I wasn't who I was. I was in a very dark place. Very, very dark place. And almost, hung myself. And my brother came in the door and he saved my life. It's the first time I'm talking about it, but it was I've never been more grateful for him. He just came in and busted down the door and gave me the biggest hug and sat there with me and cried with me and said everything was going to be all right.
All right. So that, right? So when I looked up what the circumstances of that were, right? He basically said that he was suicidal because he had such tremendous success in wrestling when he was younger. So he was a senior in high school when it happened. When he was a freshman, he won the national championship, and he wasn't performing, or he had just drifted. He didn't have that passion. He didn't have that, he didn't see a way to where he was going to succeed in the way that he was focused on, which was, to be the national champion again. And so he drifted, he started doing drugs, and he got to a place where he was so low that he was seriously gonna hang himself. And you think about that. Because what the future was after that was, I believe he got 5th in the nation in wrestling that senior year, and then he went to Notre Dame for a year, okay? Then he quit. Okay, so he went to Notre Dame for a year, and he quit to focus exclusively on his mixed martial arts career. So he decided when he was 19, 20, whatever, 20 years old, I'm going all in on mixed martial arts. Okay, this is a person who tried to kill themselves when they were 18 or 17 because because the outcome of their high school wrestling career mattered so much to them that it ate him alive on the inside, to where hanging himself was like a serious consideration because he was so disappointed and crushed in his, in wherever he was at in relation to that. And so you think about that, okay? Think about that when you watch this video that I just did. The reason I understand him is he is built out of fire, just like me. And the only thing that I need to say about that is people like him feel things very, very strong. The emotional ups and downs of a person wired like him are hard to exaggerate. And I'm not talking like a bipolar thing. I'm talking about in relation, bipolar shit's out of control. I'm talking about in relation to the outcomes of things that you're doing. He is a person who needs to have a passion North Star that he's chasing, obviously. Okay? He needs a thing that he's chasing. That's what that tells me. That's how important, that is a critical piece of his life experience, is something that he is chasing. And thus far in his life, it's always been related to sports or combat sports, right? Now, he's got a wife, he's got kids or whatever. He's not gonna hang himself now. But that's how heavy he feels these things. And I did the other video. I'm telling you, I did the video you're about to watch. I did all that without knowing. I did not know this. I just knew. But like, it makes, when you hear me in the next video talk about the problem he's trying to solve, think about it now through this lens. This was context I didn't have when I filmed it. This is what I'm talking about. The problem he's trying to solve is the most important thing in his entire life, is that North Star. He has to have it. The absence of it is soul crushing to him. So, anyway, I guess this is a good intro to a video I'm very proud of that you guys can watch now. So, I'll let you guys get to it. Right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now we're going to talk about Cody Garbrandt today. We're going to talk about his recent comments. He called out Sean O'Malley. He says he wants that fight next. He's talking about what he's going to do, if he's going to stay at 25, 35. But specifically, I want to talk about him calling out Sean O'Malley, because I can't exaggerate how bad of an idea I think that is. I mean, and the thing is, he might be able to talk himself into that fight right now. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Like, I'm going to do this how I do it. I'll tell you what's in his mind. I'm going to tell you why the UFC might actually do this fight right now. And I'll tell you why it's a terrible idea for multiple reasons. For his career, anyway, all that stuff. Now, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. So tell your friends. We try to take a different approach here and look at these things from a personable perspective. Personable. I don't know, like an introspective, what's going on in this person's mind? How is that going to affect the fight? Then throw in some X's and O's, etc. So here's the deal, right? So Cody Garbrandt, just to recap, started his career undefeated, became the bantamweight champion when he beat Dominic Cruz, had a performance that was unbelievable in that fight. And up until that fight, he had been knocking everybody out. In that fight, knowing he was fighting Dominic Cruz, he didn't go in there trying to headhunt, because he respected Dominic Cruz so much and respected his game that he knew he was going in there to play tag. He was not going in there to go get in some slugfest war. He was going in there against one of the trickiest, herky-jerky, intentionally no-rhythm guys that's ever done it. Dominic Cruz is a savage. Like, Dominic Cruz is a savage and one of the hardest guys to hit in the history of the division. And Cody went in there knowing that, respecting that, because of what Dominic had done to Team Alpha Male, right? And because of that respect, that one part of his game that has led to all of his losses since then, all of them, except maybe the Rob Font fight, but all the other ones, that was out of his mind and not part of his game plan, okay? I cannot stress enough how clear his fight game is to me, okay? His fight game has one correction to be made, and he will do very well. It doesn't mean he'll beat everybody, but if he continues to do what he's been doing, he will lose to everybody. I think he'll beat 90% of the fighters if he switches one thing, and that's exactly what I'm talking about now. Fight everyone like you fought Dominic Cruz. Okay? Fight everyone like you fought Dominic Cruz. You knew it was extraordinarily unlikely that you were going to get a knockout, so your approach was, don't let him be herky-jerky. Make sure that I use my footwork, be light on my feet, be fast, touch him more than he touches me. That's it. Be cocky and goat him, right? Like, be cocky and bait him. Make fun of him. Touch him. You hurt him in that fight. But don't worry about a whap, like a highlight knockout. It's the only fight where he fought that way, and he was unbeatable that night. That's all he needs to do, especially at 25. Especially at 25. Forget about the highlight knockout, dude. That is not where you're at in your career right now. Like, forget about that, dude. Forget about it. You need a win, and you need a win where you look good. A highlight knockout is not as good as you dancing around and piecing somebody up. Anyway, sorry, I'm a huge Cody Garbrandt fan, if you guys can't tell. A huge Cody Garbrandt fan, and I'm really rooting for him. And it's really aggravating to watch what's happening, because I understand where he's at. I really do. I think one of the reasons that I'm such a huge fan of his is I think he and I share a similar mindset in general in competition, which is why I can tell you exactly what he's doing right now. Calling out Sean Omalley. I completely get it. I'm not talking like, I'm older than him. I've gone through some things in my life where I had to be very honest with myself about what motivates me and why I did certain things. Things that are hard to admit to yourself initially, but I have, and so I can diagnose them in other people. So what Cody Garbrandt is doing right now, right? What he has been doing is he's trying to solve a big problem that you need to do step by step all at once. Like he just wants to just do one big thing and then be back right where he wanted to be. Okay, that's not how this works. It's not going to work that way. So he loses to TJ the first time, a fight he very easily should have won, right? The first round he dominated TJ and almost knocked him out. TJ got saved by the bell. Then he got into a winging slugfest and he got caught, right? And in the second fight, very similar. TJ looked great, but slugfest. Now in the second fight, you got all this heat, you got all this animosity between TJ and Cody. And Cody almost knocked him out in the first round. And so he's like, he got, after the first fight, he's like, he got lucky, right? He's never been knocked out in UFC before. So he goes and he makes the same mistake. Then he's going into his next fight, coming off 2 knockout losses. Now, fighters would obviously be able to validate this, but I can tell you for sure that emotionally, coming off 2 knockout losses, like coming off a loss in general, feel like in their life, it feels so different, like their training camps. Everything feels different when you're coming off a win versus coming off a loss. And coming off 2 knockout losses for the first time, it's like, man, I need to solve this. Like the way I feel right now, I need to make that go away. I need to get back where I was. And that is the opposite of how you should be approaching a fight. You should be approaching every fight as a tactician. Who am I fighting, right? And what's my number one objective? It's not to hit him. It's to make sure he doesn't hit me. Objective 1 in fighting is not to hit your opponent. It's to make sure your opponent doesn't hit you. Okay? If you land a shot and they hit you clean, I mean, you know what I mean? And when you're going into a fight thinking, I need to solve this huge problem, then that anxiety that lives in you where you're looking for a quick fix will cloud your judgment in there. And then when you see an opportunity, like maybe you can end the fight, that's where the anxiety, you fight pretty good at the beginning, you're playing good defense, and that anxiety that lives right underneath the surface, just a little bit right there, where you want to get this win, you really want it, you got to get it. You touch a guy and he's a little bit hurt and you're not confident. That anxiety right there, that is the opposite of confidence. Okay? When a guy is flowing and he hasn't lost in 10 straight fights, and he's like, boom, he touches a guy, that anxiety is not there. He looks at a guy and he goes, oh, he's hurt. And then you gauge, should I go after him or not? And because just go try to finish is not always it's just not always correct. Sometimes people are hurt worse than other times. And the guy without the anxiety is going to be objectively looking and confidently making that decision. A person who has that anxiety, I need to solve this, I have to get this win. That's where that comes into play. Like that's where that anxiety is. You touch a guy and you look and you're like, oh, I got to get him out. The anxiety flooded your brain and you just went after it when you shouldn't have. That's exactly what happened with Munoz. And then he completely spazzed out. He thought he had him hurt. And then he just went in and that anxiety overwhelmed him. He just started wailing, just boom, 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 knocked out. That was that was the most clear and diagnosable performance I've ever seen. That's exactly what it was. What I just laid out, that's exactly what happened. Okay. So after 3 knockout losses, he switches camps. He goes and he worked with Duke Rufus, I believe. I don't know, but he went over and trained on the East Coast, went back and forth with Team Alpha Male. I heard him say specifically in the build-up for that fight that he's just playing tag. I'm just playing tag and I'm really fast. And I was like, that's correct. Now, at that point, whatever. So I was very bullish on him in that fight. He came out, he looked really confident, he looked great. He did win by a highlight knockout, but not getting into one of these big, multiple hook situations, right? Like he won by knockout there. It was the very end of the round. He was up against the fence, and then boom, and he threw one at the very end of the round and caught him, right? Now, I'm not, in all honesty, I can't commend him for that right now, because I really do believe that looking for that highlight knockout is the bane of his career right now. Like, stop, you can't do it. If I was his coach, I'd be like, you are not allowed to throw a punch like that. None. Your straight punches are plenty solid, dude. And you can throw a hook, like you throw a hook in the right place, but in all honesty, you shouldn't be that close. Like, you shouldn't be that close to where you could land one of these, because you're so light on your feet and you're so fast. Like, the reason you're so fucking good is because you're so fast and you're so light on your feet. If you get that close to him, take him down. You shouldn't be throwing strikes in that distance. Anyway, sorry, I got very sidetracked right there, because again, I'm a huge Cody Garbrandt fan, huge. And I really want to see him win. But after I guess I got to finish the career thing. So then after that win, he fights Rob Font. And that was very unfortunate, because that was the first time that he lost because he got beat. Because Rob Font is an awful matchup for him. And the reason for that is because Rob Font is very, very good at punching. Like, he's got crazy long reach, and he just is all over you. And so that quickness in and out, was basically nullified by Rob Font's ability to hit you from so far away, And so that fight was legit. He just lost that fight, It happens. Bad matchup. We'll come back to the Rob Font fight. Okay. Then he goes down to 125, and now he's coming off of losing 4 of 5, right? And now that anxiety is up to here, but he has gone down to 125, and so he's like, I'm reinventing myself. Like, I'm going to dominate these small guys, right? And he would, except he got in his own way again, right? He got in his own way again, which was, these guys are small. If I touch them, they're going to die. My power is exactly the same at 125, but forgot about rule number 1, which is don't get hit. Don't be in the pocket. Now, in the one that he got caught in, he wasn't throwing a winging punch. I think he's throwing a low kick when Kai threw an overhand right or whatever. But he was stationary. At the beginning of that fight, he was dancing around. He's throwing leg kicks. He's throwing straight punches. And I was like, dude, if he fights like this, he is not. I mean, he's going to be unbeatable at 25. What I saw in the first minute, because he's so big. He's actually big for 25. He's just as fast, and and now all of a sudden he's the guy with the reach advantage, dude. Touch, circle, touch, circle. Just move, be moving, and then all of a sudden, he decided things are going well, and he stopped moving, and he started sitting down because he was trying to sit on a fastball and knock him out again. And what happened? Okay, if he plays tag like against Dominic Cruz, he will win, and he will come back, and he will be very successful. But he needs to fight like Dominic Cruz fight. That fight, forget about knockouts. Your goal should actually your goal for your next fight should be to win by a 5-round phenomenal or 3-round phenomenal performance. You should win by absolutely dominating for 3 rounds, touching them more than they touch you. Like, that's what your goal should be for your next fight. Your goal is not a highlight knockout. That is not what you need. You don't need to, anyway, I really want him to win. But so he calls out Sean Omalley, right? And I apologize for that preamble. I'm passionate about Cody Garbrandt's career. I really, really want to see him do well. But he calls out Cody Garbrandt. Calls out Sean Omalley. And I saw that and I was like, man. And because here's the problem with that, okay? It demonstrates exactly what I was talking about when the Munoz fight, right? Where he's trying to solve a big problem all at once, right? Like, that's what this is, okay? He's trying to, at least this is how I interpret it, okay? Because there is one other way to look at it, but I doubt that the other way is what's actually happening. The way I interpret it is he's trying to solve this problem all at once. Just like with Munoz, he's got that anxiety right there. Gotta fix this, gotta fix this. He touched it, and then he gets into a slugfest. He's like, Sean O'Malley's the hottest guy in the UFC. If I go fight him and I knock him out, and I knock out Sean O'Malley, I'm back. Like, I'm all the way back, baby. I'm all the way back. So give me that guy with the hype, and I can get all the way back. Okay, that is a quick fix. That's a quick fix. And again, you're thinking all offense. Just like in the cage, outside the cage, you're thinking all offense. Offense. You know, I'll go in there, I'll get him, and then I get everything back. Okay, you need to be thinking about defense. Okay, because what you're defending now is the end of your fucking UFC career. Okay, if you lose by knockout in this next one, you are not fighting in the UFC. I mean, the only reason you're staying now is because you're such a huge star and you're only 30 years old and you have such tremendous potential. But if you get knocked out, if you lose by knockout 6 out of 7 fights, dude, they are not, like, that's it. Okay, like that. And I don't say that to be a dick. I'm trying to explain the situation. And I'm sorry I'm doing this as if I'm talking to Cody, but like, again, if he sees it, take it as a compliment. Like, I don't root for anyone more passionately than I root for you. But like, this is I'm talking to you real talk here, dude. Like, defense is your number one priority. Okay? If you're thinking about knocking out Sean O'Malley and getting it all the way back, you are in an all offense mode and you're not thinking. Because again, if you lose, and especially if you lose by knockout, that's it, dude. And the thing is, there are a million matchups that you will be able to dance around and beat a guy up. Just like I said, use your strengths. Forget about the knockout and just use your strengths. O'Malley ain't one of them, dude. Stylistically, he's a fucking nightmare for you. Like, O'Malley, I mean, believe me, I'm not trying to say this to be a dick. I do think that you, on any given night, if you're fighting your best, could beat anyone in the world. But fucking O'Malley, dude, like, think about this, okay, and this is for everybody. So the thing that I described, the anxiety, right? Like, that anxiety that you're trying to solve a problem, you're trying to fix it all at once, dude. Fix it all at once. Imagine the exact opposite of that, right? The exact opposite. You know, so like a guy with the anxiety, they get touched, they start, you know, and they're like, oh my God, I might lose. Or they touch a guy and they make bad decisions. Okay, O'Malley is overflowing with confidence. Like, he's going in there, he doesn't care who he's fighting. He's going in there, and if you put Cody Garbrandt in there with O'Malley right now, with where Cody Garbrandt is psychologically, and you throw him straight in the right back into the fire with Sean O'Malley. I mean, that is not a good idea. Like for Cody, might be great for Sean, but you need to think defense. Take a fight that you have advantages in the way that you fight, which is most other fighters, but not this one. Not this one. And again, what happens if you end up on the wrong side of a highlight knockout? Okay, you're done, dude. And O'Malley is a knockout artist. I mean, so the O'Malley fight is nuts. That is a fucking crazy thing to do. That's a crazy, I mean, so now, period, point blank period, the end. Okay, but in the event that the reason that Cody is calling for the O'Malley fight is because he is making sure that he stays relevant, right? And he's not really calling for the Sean O'Malley fight, or maybe he's like, the only way they'll give me another fight is if I do a big one with Sean O'Malley. If that's what he's thinking, that's smart. You know, if what he's thinking is, because I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes with him, his contract, UFC, whatever, no idea what conversations are happening. But if he's doing that where he's like, I need to stay relevant, I'm going to call out Sean O'Malley, that's smart. That's well played offense. If that's what you're actually doing, if that's the strategy behind it. And you know, the problem though is that the UFC might actually give you that fight. And I cannot stress this enough. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. If Garbrandt does get given Sean O'Malley, that is the UFC throwing O'Malley to the wolves. Like, they're like, nothing's going to happen with this guy. Let's feed him to O'Malley. Like, seriously, that's what that will mean. Now, that said, if they do feed you to the lion, the other part of that is they know Okay, so like we've talked about a million times, what's the worst case scenario for the UFC as it relates to Sean O'Malley? Is him losing. They are going to handpick his opponents in a way that people have very rarely seen. He is a Conor McGregor guy. They are looking at him as their next Conor McGregor. I am telling you that without any shred of doubt. But at the very least, if they're going to put him in there with someone that they think he'll beat, you may as well, kind of hedge your bet a little bit to where if he did lose, and especially by knockout, at least you've got this guy over here who is incredibly marketable, that if you could get this fucking guy back on the horse, then, from the business perspective, I mean, they want Cody to win. That's why I've always been saying, I'm like, you're never going to see a Cody Garbrandt and Sean O'Malley fight. You won't see it because those are the two most marketable guys at 135. Plain and simple. I mean, imagine if Cody Garbrandt was not Cody Garbrandt. He'd be cut for sure. 1,000% he'd be cut. 5 of his last 6. I mean, and by knockout and all of them go to a different weight class knockout. I mean, and again, I'm just saying this. I'm saying it as a compliment to him because he's so marketable. He has so much charisma, and so that's the only way that I could see them doing that is if they look at it like they think anybody who gets in there with O'Malley, they think O'Malley's going to win. But in this case, like I said, it's a hedge. It's like, well, if O'Malley lost, then at least we have our second most marketable guy at 135 who, is on a skid to get a big win and put him back in the mix and give him another shot at this thing. But anyway, that's what I've got. So if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Peace.